Welcome to the Cool Tools Show and Tell. We have a very special guest, Paul Jensen. So, Paul, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Kevin. I'm Paul Jensen. I'm in my mid-60s. Grew up in California, migrated to Washington State in my mid-30s, and have been up here since. My career has been from working in a lumberyard to a grunt for a construction company, working on the beaches of Santa Cruz, and eventually getting my general contractor's license. Becoming an extensive remodeler, pretty much always working by myself, and eventually working into a lot of custom built-in furniture, and then eventually doing a lot of stairs and fine custom work like that. That led me into, I've always been a surfer, doing the stairs with curved rails. I learned how to laminate wood, and with that, I was able to develop a wooden surfboard building process that has had me go around the world several times and teach a lot of people how to build wooden surfboards. And I've also had a really solid career of working on expedition vehicles, renovating them and modernizing them and making them like little love shacks. And then with that also rolled over into a guy up in Seattle who started a wooden trailer company. I was a consultant and production person for him, building handmade wooden travel trailers. My thing was I'd cover the wood-framed teardrop trailer with thin plywood hammered on with copper nails, and then eventually do the epoxy work on all that. So a lot of fiberglass, a lot of epoxy, a lot of custom woodworking, and by the traveling around the world, you learn how things work really, really easy or work really hard, depending on your mindset. I think you can relate to that. You have to abandon a lot of our Western privilege, and when we return home, we realize, there's like 6 big box stores within, a pretty good radius, and there's all the specialty stores around the world. You don't have that, so you just deal with what you've got. And I feel that makes you a better person and more adaptive that way.
Not only does travel kind of often strip you to the essentials, but you get to see what marvelous things people can do with the most minimal tools available. I have seen in places like Sri Lanka, Oman, India, people making these huge wooden boats by hand. I mean, literally without any power tools at all. And it's just gobsmackingly amazing to see what they do with different ants and from logs. And these are like not little canoes, not a little kayak. These are like cargo ships. And it is remarkable. So that is.
And with that, I appreciate the modernness of how everything can get, all CNC designed and cut. Call me old school. You got to learn how to have major mistakes and how to fix them, because you can't just abandon it and just click delete. You got to keep moving forward, and that perseverance. I don't know if that's a losing trait these days or not, but I don't want to sound like the old guy. I love it.
Well, let's move on to some of your favorite tools that you are would really be loath to lose and not have. What's a favorite tool of yours that you obviously use them all the time and have a lot of backgrounds in all kinds of things, as you said, from woodworking to plastics to resins and beyond. Tell us a cool tool.
Well, a lot of the tools that are the most important are the ones that keep the other tools working. Sometimes it's a grinder, sometimes it's something to pry open a cover to something. Right. A lot of my things are edge tools. I like a good sturdy knife. Lately, I've been liking to use a good sharp paint scraper, and I'll show you all these in a minute. A nice smooth-faced hatchet and a 4-inch power grinder. With those things, I can get a lot done. And of course, I have the small assortment of your DeWalt power tools, the mini table saws and mini chop saws. But most of the time, it's if I can do it by simple hand tools.
Show us one of them.
With that said, I found this knife in Japan. I was teaching a workshop there, and it's made by Olfa, and I think they're most commonly known for making the little snap-off blade.
Yeah, sort of
tool.
like this one, the little.
That's what you got right there. Yeah, this has a fixed blade, and it retreats back to there, comes out. It's real solid, very substantial blade. You can do some major leveraging, and the replacement blades are available inexpensively. This tool's like $9, I guess.
And what do you use it for?
This is what the blade comes with. Looks like when it comes with it. I'm on my third blade in 10 years. That's what. When I finally say that's enough.
Oh, because you keep sharpening it. You don't.
I do, and it's all belt sander. It's all piece of 220 on a flat surface. I don't get hung up with so much of that other stuff. You know, I'm a good, clever guy, but I'm not the best guy out there, and I'm not going to measure my life by this how tight my dovetail joints can be.
So what do you use a knife for? What do you use it for?
Everything. I mean, I have gone, opening boxes, cutting paint away and moldings from baseboard and crown molding against the wall. I've used it to do intricate. This is one of the surfboards I made, and these were all cut by hand with this knife.
Wow!
Just straight patterns and curve patterns, and tape them together and cut around it with a blade. You can be sharpened, just flat. You can just get it so knife sharp. I mean, razor sharp, and third blade in 10 years maybe.
Yeah, wow. So I've been reminded to describe this to our listeners on the podcast. It's a metal skeleton-like a knife holder and a kind of a larger than a razor blade, angled at a very steep, looks like maybe even a 30-degree angle at the front. Yeah. And what you showed was a surfboard back. Yeah. Covered with look almost like chipboard.
It's actually zebrawood veneer.
Yeah, zebrawood veneer that is inlaid just gorgeously and using this knife. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that with the travels that I've had to do, I typically don't bring any tools with me because of bringing knives across borders. And if I can't find something like this, I'll find like a inexpensive steak knife and just use that for the duration while I'm there. Just, spend, 10 minutes on a belt sander, putting a super sharp point on it. And when I'm done, just leave it behind it. A knife like that would last 2-3 years with just, every morning in the shop, just hit it on the sandpaper, keep that thing sharp, make these, 4-inch blades become 2-inch blades.
So you would use like a sandpaper. What kind of a grit? Do you go through grits on your sandpaper too? Or do you just...
I do, and that makes me smile. When I was working with the trailer company, Homegrown Trailers in Seattle, they would bring people in and they would have auditions and ask them the questions. And invariably, the question I would ask the prospective candidate, if you were to describe yourself with the grit of sandpaper, what grit would you be? And you see the phonies and the pretenders real quick when they start saying 220 smooth shit. And I'm going, me, 40 grit. 10,000 RPM. I'm coarse, but baby, I got finesse.
That's a great question. First of all, just going to sort out a bunch of people who have no idea what you're even talking about. But
yeah. Or the other one is like, okay, there's a stack of 2x4s. You got 10 minutes to make a set of sawhorses.
Yeah.
And just, are you a pretender or are you a contender? Yeah.
That's
okay. Moving on to the next tool. With what I've been doing around our house, we bought a house that's was built in 1915, and we're doing some renovations on the outside. And one of the projects I'm doing in the summertime is doing a repaint on it. And with that, there's some blistering old paint. Back when they did it back in World War I guess they didn't have primer, so a lot of the paint didn't stick. And my always have with me tool now is a common paint scraper. The brand doesn't really matter. This is Hyde, I think, and Anvil. anything works as long as it's got that shape there. And I hit it again with the belt sander.
So that shape, could you describe that? It's sort of like a flattened.
It's like a putty knife, but it's got a little hook built into one edge of it. And then it has a part of this is like for cleaning out paint rollers, but it also creates a nice big concave area where you can slip the edge of the narrow side. And so you've got basically three good cutting surfaces. You have the shortest one is about 3/8 of an inch in height. The long part is maybe 2 1/4, and in the hook part, you might have 1/4 inch of effective area, but it can also be sharpened so sharp. Once I was peeling our paint off, I got the obvious blisters opened up, and then with touching up the tool every 20 minutes on a belt sander, I was basically able to shave the paint off between where the wood had been, where it opens and closes throughout all the years, and then just get in between that layer. And instead of sanding it, I basically shaved the old paint off.
When you're touching up that tool on a belt sander, what grit are you using?
Whatever's on there. Typically, it's like 80 to 100. Yeah. I'm not that guy.
Okay. So what you do that's different from that paint scraper is that you actually sharpen it and make it into kind of like a
sharp tools are good tools. Yeah.
So that's
it's not like you just pull down and hope that you're like knocking off the rough stuff. You're actually you can shave with it. I mean, I'm not going to try, but it's sharp enough. It's like a super thin chisel. Thin chisel. Blade's a little bit flexible, but with what I've been doing, I walk around with this thing almost all day long. It takes the place of this a lot of the times because I've got enough good sharp edges to work with, and that's tool number 2.
Okay, great suggestion.
Are you ready for 3? Number 3 is a shingle hatchet made by Estwing.
Okay.
I forget where I got this. I've had a lot of Japanese style hammers with the super long neck with the small curves and claws. But I find that this is nice because I can use it as a pry bar. Again, it's really sharp. I can score something and back cut it. I smooth out the faces so it's not a waffle face. I know that this is 1 3/8 inches this way. I know that it is 6 inches this way, and I know that it is 12 inches this way in length. So those little numbers, if I'm just like putting siding on, I want to create a pattern with something, hold it against the nail, put one right there, drop it down, put it there again. Same thing linearly. If I need to dig in the soil, it's there. Claw hammers are just generally useless to me these days for demolition. Small flat bars, pry bars. If you're taking things apart and if you need to pull, you can always get in that notch right there, get one in there, lift it up.
What do the holes? Do you use the holes?
Most carpenters don't swear by these things. The titaniums is a big deal, I guess. But it's just repetitive and learning how to thwack it real quickly and lightly. It's not a sledgehammer driving contest to me, and nobody ever really uses hammers anymore for anything other than just knocking the wood around. It's all nail guns, and
right.
And that's a valid place. I don't really have a lot of use for those.
for nails. Who uses nails, right?
Yeah, screws are so much more important for assembling the major structures. I think if you were doing a lot of framing, you probably use a nail gun. I use finish guns. They're very handy. But for working on an old house, I'm mostly trying to pry up siding to remove something, maybe pull something tight, and just the Estwing frame shingling hatchet, I guess you'd call it, works good for kindling. And again, this is the third tool with a really sharp edge.
Right.
If I need to sharpen a pencil, I can do that too with this thing. So
what are the holes at the top for?
These are for, I think I'm not a shingler, but I think there's a gauge you can put on and you can determine the depth of the shingle overlap. So you would, like a little pin that would go through, and you hook that on the bottom of the shingle and you lift it up and then you hold it in place and then you nail it in.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think that I've never done it that way.
All right.
but it's for some kind of gauge.
Okay, so this is it's called a shingling hatchet.
Yeah,
technical term, and it's sort of like a cross between a hatchet and a hammer.
Yep.
It almost looks like a geologist hammer. And
yeah, and masonry hammers are similar, but the masonry hammer would have it be about 1 inch wide over the top, and then go like more chisel like that way. This is on a different axis, but carpentry wise, it's just solid and pretty much unbreakable. Some people have concerns about the shock from steel hammers affecting their elbows, and there again, it's learn good technique, and you avoid that. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm still okay.
Yeah. That's a great. Again, you like to sharpen things, and that's dual use, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
You always have something sharp at hand. So the Estwing is, and I imagine there's probably different brands as well of a shingle hatchet.
They do. I think Estwing's is maybe the only one that has the metal shank to it, metal shaft.
Okay.
A lot of them are wood, and I used to think that wood was the best thing, but I really like the solid forged one piece with a rubber grip. It's not going to break on me, and if it breaks catastrophically, it's my fault, my failure. But you can really put some leverage with a tool like this, and throw it around, leave it in water. It's not going to swell up on it. Just you don't have to be super nice to your tools all the time, other than putting a good sharp edge on.
Okay, so your fourth tool.
Fourth tool is this is a DeWalt 20 volt cordless, battery powered, 4-inch grinder polisher. They call it a heavy duty cordless cutoff tool. I use it primarily with a sanding disc, typically 40 grit on a backing pad, and this if I'm cutting steel, I can take the sharp edges off of something. If I'm working with wood and I need to put a quick bevel on something, just a really super fine touch. And I use this tool a lot for when I was building wooden surfboards. I would do the rail shaping. That's the edge of the board. That's this part of the board right here. I would use the tool and just feather it all in, go up and back, and use this as the primary tool to remove wood. Right. It's a learned technique, but when you're teaching surfboard workshops and you're doing 10 boards in a day, helping people out, you learn really fast how to get good, as opposed to building one a week. Yeah. And by the teaching too, you learn what they don't have. You have to overcome a lot of things with materials. You got to be flexible, and it's I learn as much as they do.
I was just recently looking at cordless cutoff saws.
Yeah,
because I also have DeWalt, and I noticed that there are several different models. The one you have is really nice because it has this sort of open handle-like thing to it.
Yeah. I take the guards off all my tools.
Okay, your tools.
I don't endorse that, but it's worked for me. And there's you can put a little T handle or an L handle that comes off the side. It would go in like that. But it's small enough, light enough. I can do most of my work, one-handed. And just understanding the right kind of technique when you're using a tool like this. When
right.
You're trying to shape a surfboard, you want to have your elbow right tight against your body to like create it won't be loose and flapping around. It'll be tight to your body. It's one less axis to be moving. So
right.
It's the little things.
And do you take that sanding hub off and put on like a cutoff wheel if you wanted to cut?
I do. I had a wire wheel on it today too. Cutoff wheel for if I'm cutting electrical conduit or rebar. Again, it's a simplicity. My toolkit is actually it's pretty darn small. because I learned to adapt with what tools I have to meet the situation. And a few tools like this is so invaluable. Some people swear by jigsaws all the time, or bandsaws, or sawzalls, and everybody has that one thing that really works well for them. And this little kit, it's indispensable to me. I would like to find a way where I didn't have to have a power tool at all. But in the world I live, that's not practical.
Yeah, cutting metal the hacksaw is just
no,
done that, been there. Nope.
Yeah.
No, actually, for me, that was a huge discovery. Discovering the angle grinder, the cutoff wheel was like, oh my God, I wish I'd known about that 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Or earlier,
Well,
20 years before.
One of the things that I've been working on at our house, we moved in and it had a raspberry patch, and we did the maintenance last year, and the raspberries just went crazy. They got up to 12 feet tall, and they were not supported enough by the typical wires that support the raspberries. A friend gave me some bamboo, and I made a bamboo pergola in a way over the existing wire support structure for the berries. And to join the bamboo pieces together, I didn't want to lash them all together, but I got some all thread, some threaded rod, 1/4 inch, put a nut on one side, and I can make whatever length bolts that I wanted with using the cutoff wheel to cut them, using this to open up the thread so I could actually thread the nut on. And when I was through with it, I got some bolt cutters and cut it short. So I ended up with a bunch of all thread, and I got this, fairly sturdy, going to last at least 10 years structure in the backyard with materials that I don't have to go buy. If it's there, I can work with it.
Right. So like I worked with chicken wire to do a chicken coop. The trick is use your cutoff wheel to cut chicken wire. It's like it's really the only way to do it. It's not like a scissors or pliers or wire cutter. You take your cutoff thing and just zip right across, and that's how you cut chicken wire.
Same thing. I was working with metal roofing. We have a house that has horizontal bevel siding on it, and the bottom courses were rotting out. So what I ended up doing was get some galvanized metal, cutting it to 34 inches and running vertically to where the horizontal siding was. And again, this cutoff tool works just great.
Yeah.
It's just having a little assortment of batteries can carry you through the times when you wished you had a cord. But and the DeWalt systems work great for me. I've got probably 6 different battery powered tools, and they're all interchangeable. And I have yet to kill a battery on those things. I can't say that for all the brands that I've worked with, but DeWalt has just been a performer. Yeah,
the cordless revolution has really changed things, and I'm slowly all my tools that way, that I never thought. And I just looked at some of these cordless. We just had someone on, Tim O'Reilly, talking about his cordless chainsaw.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh yes.
Well, one of the other essentials, I don't really need a chainsaw. We've been doing some major landscaping on our house, and just a cordless DeWalt battery powered sawzall with a very aggressive blade. I cut like 9-inch logs with the thing.
Yeah.
I have an electric chainsaw, but there again, you grab the battery powered one, show my wife how to hold it, let the tool do all the work, and she can do her cuts herself.
Yeah, exactly. These quite a revolution. So these were really fantastic, Paul. Do you have a project that you want to share with us, an audience, something you want to tell them, or where to find more about you, or a passion project that you're working on?
I think if you want to find out more about my work, I have a website, surfboards.com. And on the links page, there's links to a lot of the vehicles that I've worked on. There's links to some day job work that I have done. I don't really have a lot of, I have no Facebook friends, very few Instagram followers. I don't really use my time for promoting my work because I'm retired. But Lloyd Kahn has one of my vehicles featured in the book that he just came out with, Rolling Homes.
Right.
And it's a Jeep that I was fortunate enough to have a client have me do the work on. And he gave me a lot of latitude for the creativity and the overall design aesthetics. When he was had it for over a year, he wanted to do another modification to it, and he sent it out of state, and that person failed to do the work. And by then, he had a substantial amount of money invested in it, and he didn't want to go through that same amount of money again to try to get it going and the amount of time that it would take. And he chose not to go ahead and sell it or part it out, but he gifted the vehicle to me. And then I went ahead and did a restoration, very, very similar to what I did initially, but I did it, the way that met my needs more. And that's the vehicle that's in the Rolling Homes book.
Are you working on another vehicle now?
I kind of I don't do that. Like, people ask me to do it. Retired feels really good. I'm so busy around here. We're doing a lot of work in our house. Again, I'm stripping paint. I'm adding metal siding. I've just put some baseboard at the bottom of the metal siding. A friend gifted me a log, and we took off the outer corners, the edges of it, and it was all the live edge half logs, and I made that as the baseboard against the metal. So it goes from soil to log to wood to painted trim to brick red barn house. So that's what I've been working on. I built a slate fireplace with a 2x2, 2x4, and 4x4 slates with a redwood mantle. Did that last year. I tiled a shower in our laundry room. So we have a shower. Used a bunch of hexagonal tiles to do that. Built a garden shed for my wife for all of her things. It just goes and goes and goes.
So like when you were doing the tiling, had you done tiling before, or do you just go to YouTube and start Googling how to tile?
Yeah, no, that's how you do it. My first tile jobs were in Pebble Beach for some friends, and they thought that I knew what I was doing, and I wasn't going to let them down. And it involved tiling a countertop, a floating mortar bed, and back then we even floated the backsplashes. That's just the way it was done in California. You chicken wire on the wall, you put up some screeds, do that, and then I had a lot of work replacing broken shower pans on the old tile, going in there and break out the lower 3 courses of tile, pull out all the old mortar, put in a new vapor barrier, and the best way to learn is to do tear outs, and then and the old traditional ways in a lot of ways are still the best ways. Things are so over engineered now. It's so litigious, and the cost of houses, when you're having to spend like $7 or $8 for a joist hanger, who can really afford so much of this stuff?
Right.
Things have been complicated, but I understand the need for all that too.
One of the things you learn by doing tear outs is what also not to do as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
They fail.
Yeah, but it's like the building paper on this house. It was basically just cardboard. It kept the air from moving in and out. The house we have is insulated in the attic and in the subfloor, but the walls aren't insulated. It's just got that 3.5-inch airspace with 2 layers of wood on the outside, a layer of wood, and a layer of drywall. Last year, the outside siding was 142 degrees with one of those digital thermometer guns, and on the inside, 82 degrees. It's 82 on the inside, 142, and there's just air.
Why was it 142?
It was the heat spell we had, and the sun hitting it all day long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you put your hand on it. You don't want to do that for very long, but I was just curious, what are the temperatures out here? I know that it's 100 degrees outside, but the asphalt was probably
wow,
bad enough to burn your feet. So
are you still making wooden surfboards or teaching the classes on that?
Not really. I kind of just did all that and said I got nothing left to prove. I figured out a process. I put it out there for free for people to take. And I think I read something about in your Tools of the Titans talking about give it away, give it away, give it away.
Right.
And if it has any value at all, people are going to take it and run with it. Through a set of circumstances, with me giving away the process, people were making their boards, and this one a pair of guys in one of our local beaches made a board, and then they were looking at mine and holding it, and some guys walked by and go while they're holding my board going, that's an amazing surfboard. And they go, yeah, we make them just like this. And it just felt like I got vomited on. These people are taking credit for what I'm doing and acting like total assholes. And I said, okay, I'm not going to be giving it away anymore. I'm going to just sell the information on a how-to CD back when, CDs were sold. And that led me to being able to travel around the world and teach. I'd sell the CD for $100 a pop, basically a book on and then I travel and then teach and travel and teach. And a good friend, Tim Niemeyer, he lives in Bellingham. Tim started Ocean Kayaks, the ubiquitous kayaks everywhere. And his business model, which he said, maybe this will work for you, is to, take a whole bunch of pre-orders, like Kickstarter finally starting to do it. And when it was for surfboard building, I would try to set up 3 workshops in Australia, so I would have, a good source of income on one trip, and pre-sell those things. And if there's enough people to justify the workshop, usually 10, or that wasn't hard pulling 10 people together, then you go ahead and schedule. You don't get the 10, you refund the money. Right. So it's this process of giving it away, showing that you're altruistic, and then you are able to travel and meet people and see an amazing world.
So today, if someone wanted to learn, where do they go? Is that your website, or is there a course somewhere?
I have I do teach workshops still at my house, unless I can get enough people together to make it worthwhile. But I've been there and done that, and I'm just kind of waiting for somebody else to take the process and evolve with it a little bit more. To me, it's disappointing. So a handmade craft, it hasn't really been significantly improved on in 20 years. I know how to do things differently, but it's like, yeah, you guys take care of that. And
when has anybody tried to make a YouTube version for you?
Oh, they're all over the place. They're all over. Yeah. There's so many videos, but there's very little originality. It's just like somebody doing a video of your process. You show me the process, then I'm now your expert.
Okay.
And that's what's been going on. There's very, very few people who are innovative. There's a lot of people who are very good at copying and replicating and mastering the process. But as far as originality, it's, I don't know.
But I mean, has anyone made a video of you doing the instruction?
No.
That's what
they've had cameras in the workshops. I have no problem with that. But I never deliberately sat down to create the video. It's just like, I don't want to take the time to have to learn to edit that. I didn't buy a CNC machine back in 2007 because it would have been a learning process, and that's when the economy did a downturn. And I'm glad I didn't invest a lot of money on something I really couldn't use. I had a really narrow time where I was the guy traveling the world teaching people how to do this stuff. And since then, the YouTube videos have superseded that. There's Facebook groups for everything, and the masters are slowly just gathering dust and getting nicknames like Old Salt. So.
Well, I hope you do at some point. Some young whippersnapper comes along and says, "Okay, Grandpa, let's film you doing it for one last time."
I do it. I don't do it for the money. I've got other things that I'm doing, and I just love it.
I understand.
The travel was awesome, meeting people and spending 2 to 3 weeks in a destination, living under home rules, never staying in an Airbnb or a hotel, just kind of like, this is how you live? You got out of the teepee last year and you're living in this thing now? Or it's all over the board. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. No, ground truth, we call it ground truth.
Yeah.
Well, this has really been wonderful, Paul. Thank you so much.
I've enjoyed it.
For your time, for your great selection of tools. Very, very helpful to me. And I appreciate what you're doing and your work and your ethos and your sensibility. So more power to you. Keep going. Make some more stuff. Be imaginative. And thanks for being on Cool Tools.
Awesome. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much, Kevin.
We're glad that you enjoyed this issue of the Cool Tools Show and Tell. Just want to remind you that we have some other coolish material on our YouTube channel here. Please subscribe, comment, like. In addition, This Cool Tools Show and Tell is also available in an Audible podcast form. You can subscribe to it wherever you subscribe to other podcasts if you just wanted to listen. And if you're listening, know that there is a visual version of this on our YouTube channel where we're actually showing the tools, and there's a little bit more of a visual component there. In addition, the same folks that put us, the Cool Tools website out, we also put out a free newsletter every week. It's very, very short. It's 1 page or less. We recommend 6 very brief items that are very succinct, easy to read. You can deal with it in a couple minutes. And every week we bring to you the 6 cool things that we have uncovered and want to share. And it's called Recommendo with 1 M, recommendo.com. You'll be able to find it there. It's free. Join 50,000 plus other subscribers every Sunday morning. You'll get it in your email box. And it's actually one of the most popular things that we produce. But we do produce other newsletters as well. One of them is called What's in Your Bag. We have one that goes out to tools and tips for your workshop. So you can get those at our website, and they are also free. And finally, I want to mention the fact that we do have a Patreon, and this podcast and this vidcast are supported by Patreon supporters. The minimum is $1 a month. And for that, you get an email to ask us anything. We'll respond and answer your question if we're able to. There are other higher levels. You can all see those at our Patreon page. And all those links are below right here. So thank you again for being a fan. And we'll keep producing stuff if you enjoy it. Thanks. We are grateful for all our Patreon supporters. And this week's include Randy Fisher, Bob K., Hans Reisbeck, Michael Douglas, Andrew Nepley, Chris Wurstiuk, Dan O'Brien, Michael Jones, Chris Wayland, and Pamela Cooley. We give thanks to each of you and appreciate your support. Thank you.